the scientific study of life. Humans are bipedal hominids with a large brain. In our tour of Earth's biodiversity, we come at least to our own species, Homo sapiens, which is about 160,000 years old. When we consider that life has existed on Earth for at least 3.5 billion years, we are clearly evolutionary newcomers. Derived characters of humans. A number of characters distinguish humans from other hominids. Most obviously, humans stand upright and walk on two legs. Humans have a much larger brain than other hominids and are capable of language, symbolic thought, and the manufacture and use of complex tools. Humans also have reduced jaw bones and jaw muscles, along with a shorter digestive tract. The list of derived human characters at the molecular level is growing as scientists compare the genomes of humans and chimpanzees. Although the two genomes are 99% identical, a disparity of 1% can translate into a large number of differences in a genome that contains 3 billion base pairs. Keep in mind that such genomic differences at whatever derived phenotypic characters they code for separate humans from other living hominids, but many of these new characters first emerged in our ancestors long before our own species appeared. We will consider some of these ancestors to see how these traits originated. Notice this figure, the earliest hominids. The study of human origins is known as paleopathology. Paleopathologists have unearthed fossils of approximately 20 species of extinct hominids that are more closely related to humans than to chimpanzees. These species are known as hominids, as shown in this figure. Since 1994, 4 hominid species dating from more than 4 million years ago have been discovered in the fossil record. The oldest of these hominids, called as shown in this figure, this one, Sahelanthropus gigantensis, which discovered or lived about 70 or 6 to 7 million years ago. Its fossils were discovered in 22. Sahelanthropus and other early hominids shared some of the derived characters of humans. For example, they had reduced canine teeth, and some fossils suggest that they had relatively flat faces. They also show signs of having been more upright and bipedal than other hominids. One clue to their upright stance can be found in the foramen magnum, the hole at the base of the skull through which the spinal cord exists. The chimpanzees, the foramen magnum is relatively far back on the skull, while in early hominids and in humans, it is located underneath the skull. Hominids, or this derived position, allows us to hold our head directly over our body, and apparently early hominids did as well. Leg bones of Australopithecus as shown in this figure. Note that the characters that distinguish humans from other living hominids did not all evolve in tight unison. While early hominids were showing signs of bipedalism, their brain remained small, about 400 to 450 centimeter in volume, compared with an average of 1,300 centimeter cube for Homo sapiens. The earliest hominids also were small, the 4.5 million years old. Ardipithecus remidos is estimated to have weighed only 40 kilograms and had relatively large teeth, and a lower jaw that projected beyond the upper part of the face. Humans, in contrast, have a relatively flat face. Compare your own face with that of the chimpanzees, as shown this figure. It is important to avoid that or different traits of evolution in different features is known as mosaic evolution. It is important to avoid two common misconceptions when considering these early hominids. One is to think of them as chimpanzees. Chimpanzees represent the tip of a separate branch of hominid evolution, and they acquired derived characters of their own after they diverged from their common ancestor with humans. Another misconception is to imagine that human evolution is a leader leading directly from an ancestral hominid to a homo sapiens. This error is often illustrated as a period of fossil hominids that become progressively more like ourselves as they march across the page. If a human evolution is apparent, it is a very disorderly one, with many groups breaking away from the march to wander down dead end alleyways. At times, several hominid species coexisted, but all except one lineage, the one that gave rise to Homo sapiens, ended in extinction. Some paleoanthropologists suggest that a convergence was common in early hominid evolution. Different lineages of hominids acquired different combinations of derived characters and retain different sets of primitive characters. It has even been suggested that some of the fossils claimed to be early hominids, such as Oren tigensis. This is the Oren tigensis. Are actually outside the hominid clade altogether. If that's true, they must have independently acquired some hominid-like traits. Australopithecus. The fossil record indicates that homin diversity increased dramatically between 4 and 2 million years ago. Many of the hominids from this period are collectively called Australopithecus. Their phylogeny remains unresolved on many points, but as a group, they are almost certainly paraphyletic. Australopithecus anamensis, Austro that links the Australopithecus, the older homins such as Ardipithecus remedus. Or Australopithecus got their name from the 1924 discovery in South Africa of Australopithecus africanus, southern EP of Africa, which lived between 3 and 2.4 million years ago. With the discovery of more fossils, it became clear that Africanus walked fully erect, was bipedal, and had humans like hands and teeth. However, its brain was only about one-third the size of the brain of a present-day human. In 1974, in the Ifer region of Ethiopia, paleoanthropologists discovered a 3.24 million years old Australopithecus skeleton that was 40% complete. Lucy, as shown this figure, called Lucy as the fossil was named, was short, only about 1 meter tall. Lucy and similar fossils have been considered sufficiently different from Australopithecus africanus to be distinguished as a separate species. Australopithecus afarensis of the Ifer region. Fossils discovered in the early 1990s shows and this figure. A afarensis existed as species for at least 1 million years ago. At the risk of simplifying, one could say that afarensis had fewer derived characters of humans above the neck and below. Lucy's head was the size of a softball, indicating a brain size about the same as that of a chimpanzee of Lucy's body size. A-Francis skulls also have a long lower jaw. Skeletons of A-Francis suggests that a capacity of arboreal locomotion with arms relatively long in proportion to body size compared to the proportions on humans. However, fragments of the pelvis and skull bones indicate that A-Francis walked in two legs. Fossilized footprints in Lutuli, Tanzania, corroborate the skeletal evidence that hominid living at the time of A-Francis were bipedal. Notice another range of Australopiths consisted of the robust Australopiths. These hominids, which include species such as Baranthropus ebuensis, had sturdy skulls with powerful jaws and large teeth adapted for grinding and chewing hard, tough foods. They contrast with the gracile, slender Australopiths, including A. francis and A. africanus, which had lighter feeding equipment adapted for softer foods. Combining evidence from the earliest hominids with the much richer fossil record of later Australopiths makes it possible to formulate hypotheses about significant trends in hominid evolution. Let's consider two of these trends: the emergence of bipedalism and tool use. Back to this figure shows a timeline for some selected hominid species. Most of these fossils come from sites in eastern and southern Africa. Note that at most times in humanid history, two or more hominid species were contemporaries. The names of some of the species are controversial, reflecting phylogenetic debates about the interpretation of skeletal details and biogeography. Back to this figure, Lucy represents Lucy, a 3.24 million years old skeleton represents the hominid species Australopithecus efrensis. B. The literally footprints more than 3.5 million years old confirm that upright posture evolved quite early in hominid's history. Closer look. Picture 3, an artist's reconstruction of what a francis may have looked like. An imagination.